little bit so people can see. All right, I think we're live. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. I'm here with Peter Merholz to rank all the companies based on their design prestige. So this is going to be a lot of fun. We did this about 2 weeks ago with Ryan Scott. And Peter, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, I'm Peter. Sorry, good morning, everybody. Well, it's morning where I am. I'm Peter Merholz. I'm an independent consultant focused on helping design organizations be their most effective. And I am speaking to you from Oakland, California.
And I'm Hang, and I work as a recruiter now, but I used to be a designer, and I'm based in New York City. So let's get this started. Sorry, we're a few minutes late, but we made a list about 2 weeks ago where we ranked the companies from S tier to F tier. And for those of you who don't know, in Japan they start with S, not A, and S is like superb. It's like the cream of the crop, top of the top. So we ranked OpenAI as top company to work at for designers last time. And I'm sure, Peter, you have some disagreements. But what is the most egregious mistake we've made in this entire ranking, in your opinion?
Well, so, I think we need to start with what are we ranking based on? And for me, I am. You were trying to rank, if I remember right, on what recruiters thought were either the top companies that designers could be coming from, or maybe what are the top companies designers want to work for, and you kind of mush those two together. Is that right?
Yes. So
Okay.
I think I have a designer brain and a recruiter brain. And the idea is that if a recruiter were to see this logo on your resume, how likely are they going to interview you without checking anything else?
Right.
So
Right.
this would be very much like design prestige, right? And I know it sounds kind of crappy when you think about it this way, but I guarantee you, like everyone thinks about it this way. Like every designer, in my opinion, has an idea of which company they want to work at next. So they kind of see themselves in terms of these rankings. Like, oh, this company I would love to work at because this will elevate my career, give me more opportunities in the future, etc.
Right. Right.
So although I would, very much say OpenAI probably doesn't have the most advanced design team, probably smaller and isn't, as focused on design as some other companies on this list. I do feel that if you were to put OpenAI in your resume, you can practically go anywhere you want next.
Interesting. Yeah.
And
Well,
yeah,
so you asked which is the most egregious. OpenAI is probably the most egregious just because it's not evident. So my orientation is less around designer desirability, at least kind of perceived coolness, and how that logo gets you your next job, and more on actual kind of design maturity. And like, would you as a designer be able to do good work within this organization and make a difference? And those are different things. Um, and so I'm going to be orienting more on that. I hear what you're saying. I've long been frustrated by designers whose goal in life is to get all the right logos, like little chiclets on their resume. Um,
like Pokemon for us millennials.
sure, yes, that's right. I'm the Merholsaurus. So representing Gen X, which some people call
Gen
boomers now.
Z.
So yeah, I know the head of product design at OpenAI, Ian Silber. He's probably not here. He worked with me at Groupon over a decade ago.
Wow.
I'm sure there is good work being done there, right? If I, I can't put them above a B though, because we're not seeing anything. Like how would you even know? The primary interface for OpenAI is a chat bot. It's just like it's not evident what role, if any, design has in actually making anything happen there, right?
Oh, oh
Um,
wow. That's a spicy take there, but that's only a two rank difference. Do we have any more egregious differences? Three or four ranks?
well, the one that might be most surprising, most egregious. Oh, it's funny. You have the two different logos, but if would be Instagram. Um,
Huh.
And Instagram is somewhere probably between B or C. But again, it is a highly polished app. But I actually think from a designerly standpoint now, um, how desirable is it to work at Meta, like writ large, is I think an open question. I know a lot of people there. I'm probably going to start pissing some of them off. But particularly just literally in this last week, you have Mark Zuckerberg just shitting the bed when it comes to saying people are leaving his services because of virtue signaling, as if like be demonstrating that you have values is somehow now a problem. You had the whole people of color AI bots buried within Instagram that then got exposed. Like there's just a lot of weird, bad decisions that go on in that company. Um, and again, it's one of those that feels like I suspect the designers are not advocating for any of this idiocy, and they're not being shouted down by tech bros who decide what is going to happen, and the job of the designer is just to polish those turds. And I would hope that is becoming that awareness is getting greater, right? Whereas a decade ago, working at Meta, Instagram, WhatsApp, whatever, sure, that was sexy. It was on the rise. There was a lot of things going on there. Now it just feels like the things that work at Meta are the things that haven't changed for a long time. Any innovation has failed. The metaverse failed. So like, what's the draw of Meta?
I just feel like people need jobs right now. So if it pays well, it's hard to argue against that.
Well,
And the market is so crappy right now. I had a friend a few days ago, we were talking and they were saying, I want to apply to this company, which is like one of the like to me an A or B tier company. And they said, they just laid off my friend who was subsequently deported back to their home country. But I'm gonna apply there anyway because I need a job. And I was like, that's so messed up. It's like watching your friend be deported by this company and realizing I still have to,
but
apply
that's not
there.
what we're talking about, right? I
That's
mean,
true. That's true.
we yes, people need jobs. Uh, and if they're offered one at a Meta company and they can't get one elsewhere, should they take it? Probably. Um, but what impact will a designer actually get to have within Meta is, I think, the open question, right? And so if we look at that, there's literally, I think, three companies that rank in any way from an S tier standpoint, and there are two of which you had, maybe three, because I think I don't know enough, but I'm assuming Figma as well, right? Just given the nature of the tool, that Noah and his team have a lot of say in the organization. Apple, kind of famously, designers essentially are a kind of flavor of product manager there. And then with Airbnb, um, I was actually kind of most impressed recently. I saw at the Advancing Service Design Conference, Rebecca Jimenez, who heads up the service design function at Airbnb, talked about work she's done there. And if folks might remember, Brian Chesky about a year and a half ago tweeted out a service blueprint, and she had been kind of instrumental in making that work. And so Airbnb is looking at non-standard design practices like service design to improve what it is they're doing. Rebecca commented on how she was able to grow her team from 1 to 5. And unlike much of what I know you've been talking about, Hang, in terms of all companies want are visual interaction designers, right? Like, this is not visual interaction design. Airbnb wants that too, but it's hiring people like Rebecca. It just hired Clay Parker Jones to head their organization design practice. Like, they're seeing design. Rick Buchanan talks about the 4 orders of design. They're seeing design in multiple orders in a way that other companies just aren't.
I see. So, as we're ranking this, how would you say your methodology is different from mine? Or really, what is your focus right now, just so we're clear?
Yeah, the ability for um, So yeah, the ability for design to have an impact and to be seen as truly valuable. I had that overlong LinkedIn video where I had my little kind of adoption curve of design and reflected on how, you've got like the laggards who are the less mature folks and then the more mature folks. The reality is it's not doesn't kind of split that way. It's probably 2080. And I'm more interested in the organizations where that are higher design maturity, which, maturity is a loaded word, but where design is senior and strategic and actually able to make an impact on the nature of the service at hand, as opposed to design being seen primarily as production, primarily as polish. Or, I mean, there's some organizations where design is just like, not quite a necessary evil. They have it because they perceive you need design to make software, but they don't have any idea what to do with it besides UI. So that's how I'm viewing it. So a key difference, I don't think you ranked Sam's Club, but I had a chance to go to Bentonville last November and meet the folks at Sam's Club. And Sam's Club is, part of Walmart, big box retailer. No one that in kind of the design firmament would think of them as a desirable design employer or whatever, but I would put them squarely in B. The event I attended was in a building called Clubhouse that had been essentially the creation of which was spurred by the design organization. It's I forget how many, 30,000 square foot building, big warehouse space that is built on the principles of design thinking. Different rooms address the different phases of design thinking, and features a 10,000 square foot floor that they can prototype in-store experiences. So like Sam's Club recently launched these exit arches to speed up leaving, right? So people don't have to review every item in your receipt before you go. And they had mocked that up in this space, right? So no one would think of Sam's Club as a high design company, but if you can get your bosses to spend literally tens of millions of dollars on a building, that's the kind of impact I'm talking about in terms of design making something happen.
Design made that happen.
Design made that happen. Martin Granstrom, the head of UX, is the primary engine of making that, and I got that confirmed by his boss, who's the head of product, and kind of the people around him. That like that's how that happened.
Does he have any secrets? Is there a whole case study on how he convinced them to spend tens of millions of dollars on a physical prototype?
I've asked him to share. I've asked him to share more. I doubt he's listening in, though. I'm sure this will get back to him. But when he and I talked before I went out there, the case study is he's been there about 5 or 6 years and just showing value for design every step of the way, right? So it's not like he joined and then out of the gate was able to make that kind of change. But over 5 or 6 years, he took a team that was like, I forget, 20 or 30 people. It's now well over 100, 150 in this market, right? Like they haven't had the rounds of layoffs and all that kind of stuff, because at every stage, design has proven its value. He had leadership that got it. So that's essential. But he was also able to kind of fill the void. And it's not just like this big prototype space. They actually had, as part of Clubhouse, they have, at least that I've witnessed, the most mature accessibility and inclusive design setup. Because again, they're thinking about how do people with varying abilities shop. So they have a fab lab that they're able to like quickly prototype how someone would move through the space, and then they're engaging folks with varying abilities to make sure that they can actually use the space. And like it's super impressive.
I just want the magic fairy dust so that we can just sprinkle it ideally.
There is no magic fairy dust.
All right.
So we just had Peter Skillman on our podcast, and he's the head of design at Philips. Philips probably isn't here. You should add Philips. He's the head of design at Philips,
I'll add it.
and he talked about how at Microsoft it took them, and it's not design, but it's related. At Microsoft, it took them 7 years to conduct a kind of software engineering transformation so that they could now produce software in a more modern clip, as opposed to a decade ago where there was a lot of tech debt, a lot of legacy, and any change was super difficult to drive. And so I call that out just because I think we all forget just how long it takes to make change. Designers in particular, I think, are the most guilty of it because it's very easy for us to imagine what that future should be. We see it. It's very evident to us. So we're like, why doesn't everyone just do the things so that in 3 to 6 months we're all operating better? And it's that kind of thing that takes 5, 6, 7 years. I've seen that over and over again. Philips, based on the conversation, Philips, I would say, is squarely a B. I don't know enough. But design, I mean, it's based on the conversation, Philips is somewhere around here. I don't know enough. I don't have enough moles on the inside to really understand kind of how things work there. I mean, Philips has had design for 100 years in some capacity, like a Philips design function, starting more in marketing and advertising, but now very much about product design, and similar to Sam's Club, like driving real innovation.
We're getting our first complaint right now.
Great.
6 logos in 18 minutes. So 3 logos a minute at best. So maybe 4 to 6 hours to get through this list.
Oh, yeah. Didn't we tell folks that we're going to be doing this for a while? Okay. So how should we just start? Should we start rolling?
Yeah, let's start rolling and let me know how I can help. So first of all, audience members, if you have a company you would like us to rank, put it in the comments and we'll do our best to surface that and add it.
Yeah, you had Netflix as S tier. I would probably put them as A tier.
High,
it's not a slight, but I wouldn't call that S tier. Google is actually, I'm a little surprised you had them that high. Why was Google that high? Just because they're Google, like they're a FANG company?
Just because they had such a, I would say historically, they were ranked pretty high years ago. And that just never really changed, even though things have changed. So you're right. Peter, would you mind just kind of going down a little bit and zooming in a tiny bit so people can see a little bit better?
Yeah.
Thank you. And Google, if you call company names, I can also shift it to the middle screen for you.
Google's a tough one. So, you have Google or where is it? Chase. I've done a lot of work with Chase, Salesforce. There's a bunch. I'm not saying they're C's. Give me a moment before we actually place them. There's companies like this. Probably Adobe would be one. Atlassian is definitely one. Like there's companies like these where it very much depends on where you are in the organization for what matters to me in terms of impact, right? And so you kind of have to average it out. Because like there's parts of Chase where design is doing good work, making some differences primarily in, say, consumer banking. And then there's parts of Chase where design really struggles to make a difference in corporate and investment banking. And so like if you split the difference, I would call it a C. Google, man.
This conversation is getting away from the original intent, the honest perception of companies with the best designers. I would say...
Wait, I don't care about the best designers. I want the best design cultures. I want where design can drive the most value. Those are going to be two different things.
Yeah, I would say also this is Peter's perception at this point, right? Each guest has their own different perceptions. And we're really just trying to explore the difference between, I would say, Ryan and my perception versus Peter's.
Yeah, I'm putting... Atlassian's another one where it's all over the map. They've actually hired some really strong folks, but then they have things like Jira, which just are ass, right? And so there's great talent in there. The ability of that talent to make change is what leads me to put them C tier. Adobe, I'm putting higher. Eric Snowden, who's their head of design now, I think their chief design officer or whatever. Like his rise, it's not about him, but is indicative of the continued kind of perception and investment in design at Adobe. And so, I would say that we're seeing design. I'm seeing design be taken more seriously there. Salesforce is another one that's all over the map. Again, some strong leadership with people like Kat Holmes, but my concern with Salesforce is that it's just not design. Design's voice, at least historically, I don't know if things have changed in the last couple of years. Design's voice doesn't make enough of a difference. It's a really product and frankly Mark Benioff led company, and so design, the ability for design to make change is not all that evident.
We got some requests right now. We got
Okay,
NVIDIA.
so I'm NVIDIA.
Yeah.
I have no idea where to put NVIDIA. Where did you guys have it hang?
Pretty high up because mostly based on FOMO. It's like, I wish I worked there and got my stock grants years ago.
Well,
I'd be a
sure.
millionaire now.
Sure.
Right?
We'd all like to work there. Does the NVIDIA though, like, I literally don't know anyone who works in design at NVIDIA, and that's my failing. I wouldn't know. Like,
Yeah.
And so yes, it's a desirable employer, but is design, like, one of the things that people don't recognize is they work for these perceived to be desirable employers, and then they are frustrated because they don't get to do anything. I think that's kind of what's happening a lot with companies like Meta. Is they offer a lot of money, they attract talent, and then folks just twist in the wind. Let's talk a little bit about consultancies that came up. I know. So Accenture Song is what I'm saying. I would put firmly as a B, and probably the highest of the big consultancies when it comes to design because of its leadership. Olaf, spacing on his last name, Olaf S., formerly the founder of Fjord. Katrina Alcorn, I know, is running the kind of design here in North America. These are great leaders. And again, so a sign of something good going on there. Whereas, talk to anyone about what's happening with design at McKinsey, not great right now. There's still some leaders left, but McKinsey's been flushing out a lot of designers. So even though they talk a lot about the power of design, I don't think it's as desirable, nor as you can be as influential. And I mean, fuck, it's McKinsey. At some point, ethics matter.
At some point.
And McKinsey's and ethics are just not aligned, and haven't been for a very long time. And for me, that's a sign that design isn't making an impact. Because good design is going to try to drive an ethical stance, and it. Sorry, I'm laughing at WeWork. I don't even know what to do with We. I mean, they used to have this amazing design organization a decade ago. Super talented folks, but come on. RGA, sorry, friends, I'm going to put you in the mid.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Used to be higher.
Yeah. They're still too marketing-y. I'm probably pissing off some people there. I mean, that's, I guess, the point of this is to piss off some folks. Shopify is an interesting one. I know some super talented people at Shopify. I'm going to keep it a B because I know design matters with people like Cynthia, people like Darren. I just wish that Toby, their CEO, wasn't a freak show. Stripe, I'm actually going to put A. I don't know. Did you have it at A? You did.
Yeah.
Not only because, so you got Katie Dill leading that team. I spoke to Katie a few months ago and found out that not only is she leading design, she's also responsible for the website, like stripe.com, right? And so when you have that kind of business responsibility as a design lead, that's an indicator of strength. One that many of our followers probably won't be familiar with, but is in a similar boat as Zalando. We interviewed their head of design, and Pasquale. And not only is she running design, she has a business responsibility for the website as well, for the kind of marketing aspects of the website. And so again, that shows that leadership is making a commitment to design to be a real business value. What are you adding here? Oh, Anthropic.
Anthropic. Yeah, that's
I
can't
don't
believe I
have
missed that.
I don't have a view of a lot of the AI companies because, however big they are in our collective conscious, their design teams and design work, like, it's just not as present or prevalent. They're not writing about it. The teams aren't that big. You're not seeing them at conferences and stuff like that. So I don't know what to make of it.
All right, we got a lot of requests, so I'm just gonna cycle through and you can
Please.
pick from them. Okay, so we got Deloitte, we got Envision,
Oh,
we got
you don't have Deloitte as a logo.
no, I'll add it. We have Mozilla, Datadog, ServiceNow, Cisco, and
Mozilla,
Best Snacks. That's actually kind of important. That is,
ServiceNow. You don't have these companies.
I know, I screwed up.
So
Okay, how about
add the
IKEA?
logo. IKEA. I'll do IKEA.
Yeah,
IKEA is a funny one. IKEA. Oh, IKEA. I'm going to call it a C. I know some folks there. They've had some leadership turnover. They're actually, I think it's now known, they're looking for a new head of design. IKEA is a bit of a chaotic organization from everything I can understand about it. Again, there's some really talented people there, but it's not clear to me that design is able to drive impact in a truly meaningful and strategic way. ServiceNow. So I'm going to give them B. They have a chief experience officer now, Amy Loki. She's been there a few years. She's really ramped up kind of her leveling and kind of the impact I think design can have. The reason I'm not making it an A is my own ignorance, and that I just don't know kind of the impact customer experience that they're able to have. But one thing I think worth noting, whether it's ServiceNow, whether it's trying to think if there's any others here that I would want to call out. Well, so I'm gonna prop up a friend. I'm gonna put JustWorks in as a B as well. That's a little too big considering they're not that big of a company. So JustWorks is a kind of an enterprise B2B company based in New York. I'm frankly, full disclosure, friends with their VP of design. They're a smallish company that no one has heard of, but where design is highly valued. I worked to help them place this VP of design role. Customer understanding and customer awareness is highly valued. They did their due diligence and did it right in bringing on Jay. Jay is being able to remake the organization. And the reason I'm calling out both JustWorks and ServiceNow is neither of these are sexy, and they're both great places for designers to work from everything I can tell. Right. And designers need to stop worrying about the shininess of the logo and start thinking more about where's a great place to work where I can make an impact.
I interviewed there a few years ago before you placed the VP there. And I think back then it was, I forgot who it was, but one of the directors, Tom Takigayama, and he was
Tom
great.
Is great. He's still there.
Tom's wonderful. And he moved into is he still an IC?
He's, I think, now a senior IC there.
That is
kind of
so crazy.
Director level IC.
Yeah.
IBM.
That's a sign.
IBM 5 years ago, IBM would have been a solid B. I'm putting them as a C. They've lost important leadership, people like Katrina Alcorn. Their senior leadership, their executive leadership, from my intel, does not understand or respect design the way that prior leadership did. It's not lower because there's still tons of design and designers, and I think the changes that they made around things like design thinking and spreading that everywhere have stuck. So, like, there's a threshold that I think it will remain above. But IBM, there was some of the signature companies of kind of that design wave in around 2015, and I'm putting Capital One here after they acquired Adaptive Path and ramped up and had all these other people and Daniela Georgia is running design at Capital One. I know there's a bunch of good people there, but again, like, are they driving impact? as opposed to being just like doing good work. I think it's the same challenge with Chase. A lot of banks, I think we had Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo, I'd put, frankly, E tier at this
That's
point.
generous.
Maybe it's lower. F for me would be just, yeah, truly egregious, I think is why. It's just, I had this conversation recently with someone who works at a bank. And the problem with banking, financial services, when it comes to design, is that in the United States, no financial service wins on design. They win on regulatory capture. They win on legacy. They win on too big to fail. And so you need some degree of design for usability of your tools, but design as a real source of new business value, of innovation, of change, is just not happening in American financial services. Now, I'd asked you to give us Monzo. Monzo, I would put A. I would consider S, because of Woko, and she had a predecessor. I forget his name. Woko guested on our podcast. Woko is now a chief design officer at Monzo. She reports to the CEO. I think she definitely doesn't report to the chief product officer. She oversees all design. She has an economics degree, so she's able to talk numbers, but she loves, like, she's talented as a design leader, so she's able to bring those together. And Monzo, and in the UK, because of a different regulatory environment, design is a factor that can allow you to win. And Monzo is winning in large part because it's a better experience than the other banks. And in the United States, we just don't have, we're not seeing digital only competitors a la Monzo, like we had ones like Simple or whatever in the past. They all fail because of things outside of design's control when it comes to banking in the United States.
Give me one F.
One F.
I want something
Right.
spicy. I want something where people just
I hear
get
you.
offended.
I'm looking around.
I see one possible one.
Oh, well, this for me is an
Yeah.
obvious F.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, I mean, and it's sad, right? You know, I know
It
Twitter
is.
from the Doug Bowman, Mike Davison days. The degree of polish that Twitter was always blamed or accused of, like, not evolving its app enough. But I thought that was quite intentional, because I saw Twitter as a the design of Twitter and the production of Twitter as something that demonstrated a lot of care. That has gone out the window. Obviously, with their leadership, it's a problem. But, like, whether does anyone want to work there? If you had that on your resume that you were the designer at X, like, okay, Truth Social, I guess, would love to hire you maybe, but, like, I don't know where you're going. Like, it's a dumpster fire. So that's almost too easy. I want a spicy F.
I have a Truth Social account for UX design.
That is the least surprising thing said today.
Yeah. Not a big UX field there, surprisingly.
I'm not seeing any Fs. I'm trying not to pull punches. It's just that, I think if you kind of rank in these ways, just to have a logo that we would know and pay attention to, you're probably not an F company.
That's true. Let's go back to the list of the comments. We got GE.
Bring some comments. Sorry?
We got GE, and we got Envision.
GE. So GE under Greg Petroff a decade ago in the Center of Excellence for User Experience, and they had people like Katrina there and Andrew Crow there, this remarkable talent, and then that all went away. And GE is one of those companies that, and I'm placing it as a D. That might be unfair. GE is hard because there's so many. Oh, you're saying GE Digital. I'm not as specifically familiar with digital. GE has 15 different internal business units and design. You got healthcare and aviation and digital, et cetera, et cetera. So it's one of those, like some of these other ones we discussed. Maybe I'll call it a C, where it's just, it very much depends on where you are. The thing is, as its reputation is definitely backslid. Though that's true of everything. So Maxim's probably not in the comments, but Maxim Lazarevich, also known as Round formerly on Twitter and then Blue Sky and other places, he and I used to talk about like a decade, 15 years ago, like there were companies that you wanted to work for. The Capital Ones, the IBMs, there were design firms, your Adaptive Paths or Coopers or HOTS or Punch Cuts or whatever. Those are all those types of companies that made you excited as a designer to work for them. I don't know if they exist anymore. Like in that just like unbridled, joyful way. And it's probably just the reality of like, you know what, we were naive then, and this is a healthier point of view. But I kind of miss that starry-eyedness.
So you're saying design maturity has backslid in a way.
Well, so I think what's happened is in some companies, yes, the design maturity backslid, right? There was this huge investment in the 2010s. That's when GE, IBM, Capital One, all these companies had that initial wave of design, even pre-pandemic wave, right? And that's where you had a lot of talk about design thinking and design strategy and all that kind of going. Almost in every company, that's backslid. Whatever that investment was just didn't bear out, and so they didn't continue it.
Who has
You guys put
jumped
drop off.
ranks? Who's jumped ranks a lot in the last few years? Because everything you're saying has backslid, but surely one company has jumped ranks by like 2 or 3.
Like gone up?
Yeah, gone up.
Probably Stripe wouldn't be one because they were probably always pretty high. Looking here. Gusto. I don't know about jumped ranks. You had them scored actually pretty low. You had them as a D. I would give Gusto a B. This is one where their original or the prior head of design, Nam He, very strong. Their current head of design, Amy Thibodeau, is very strong. But again, this is not sexy. They're in this wing here of not sexy utilities. But I also rate them this highly because I know design matters. I know that Tomer respects design, and spacing on the CEO's name respects design. Saw that as a competitive advantage against companies like ADP as they were coming up.
ADP.
ADP is probably like a D or an E, right? Honestly, yeah. ADP had Lithion. A friend of mine was running that. It was this spur that would have been like a B tier. And then when Lithion started doing too well, ADP like sucked it back in. But ADP, I mean, yeah, like I'm sure it's fine, but I'm sure design doesn't drive value in the ways that I would consider meaningful. Jumping tiers. I want to be let's bring some positivity. One that I would probably rate higher than most. I don't know where you had it, but Fidelity Investments, I will make solidly B. Russ is their head of UX. He's very strong. They have a really strong research function, though Jen Cardello, who used to run it, is now at Capital One.
I'm going to veto Fidelity so hard right now.
What?
I'm going to veto Fidelity so hard right now.
Okay. Why? Tell me why.
For one stupid reason. So last year, I tried to withdraw money from them, and they allowed me to double click withdraw twice. And they refused to fix it.
Okay.
And they refused to say that it's a bug.
Then we will.
And
that's weird. Is there a very customer?
They are not. They did not give a flying F.
Okay.
So
I don't doubt. I'm not disputing your. Zoom. I'm going to say D tier.
Zoom.
If only because. I have to be careful. I do know some people there. But I mean, it's kind of evident if you open Zoom and you pull the window really big and you just see all those little icons, or if you go to the website and you see the settings that like literally is longer than a page on a tall monitor, like design is not driving anything meaningful there. It is, from what I can tell, very much a CEO-driven company, and the CEO does not understand design.
I'm going to put the comments here.
Oh,
so
did you add publicists? No.
I thought I did. Oh, wait, I did not.
Mozilla, Datadog, ServiceNow, Cisco. Cisco's interesting. Did you add Cisco?
Yeah,
No.
Cisco's
Oh,
there.
oh, there it is. Cisco. So I'm going to put it right in the middle. Even though I attended their internal UX design kind of celebration, which was a celebration of design at Cisco. And the chief product officer made it very clear that he is a strong advocate for design. But he, even in his commentary, really focused on design. When he talked about design, it was largely industrial design, and it was largely like an emotional connection, very Apple story, as opposed to software design, utility, the complexities of software and working at scale. And I think Cisco, again, there's a lot of super talented people there. Hi Travis, hi Rana, hi Lindsay, Amber, but I am unclear exactly how much they're able to drive in terms of making change. And it's another one where parts of Cisco, like it's a highly variable organization, so there's multiple business units, and some will be more mature than others. And so I'm gonna kind of just put them firmly in the middle. Did you add Deloitte? No, not yet. Oh, there. So someone asked for Zoom, so I gave. Hi, Amy. You got your Zoom. Oracle. Oracle is a weird one. So Oracle, what's his name? Hillel Cooperman, and I'm forgetting. There's someone else that he partners with. When you talk to people at Oracle about design, designers at Oracle, they love their leadership. They have very strong leadership, very charismatic leadership. But it's not showing up in the products, at least in any way that I am witnessing. and in the same way that you had your Fidelity story, I do org design with a lot of around career architectures, and I work with clients that use Oracle HCM, and Oracle HCM is a disaster. And so I'm like, okay, so there's this story internally about design and opportunity, and we have this amazing design system, and we have strong leadership, but then there's what gets launched. Not great.
If a tree falls in the forest.
Turo. So I'm going to give Turo a solid B. I would want to rank it higher. Hi, Brian. Brian Beavers, their head of design. He's been there a while. I think they've clearly invested in design. I have a feeling that design is part of the reason Turo is able to beat Getaround in a similar business. I'm not making it higher just because I don't know enough. I'm not as exposed to this kind of these companies, this effort. UPS. I'm going to put UPS as a D, mostly out of ignorance. But you don't hear about them. They don't talk about design. No one from UPS is speaking at places. They're just not contributing. And the design of UPS stuff is fine, but it seems quite just like standard. I would put FedEx in here as well. If I don't know if they're not one. So I just don't like why. I don't know what would allow FedEx to get any higher. Ford is interesting.
So on the topic of content creation, I've noticed that Chase has hundreds of designers.
Chase has thousands of designers.
Okay.
Chase Consumer Chase has about 1,000 UXers. The rest of Chase has another 700 to 800 UXers doing corporate, commercial, wealth management, all kinds of other stuff.
I don't know of a single content creator from Chase for design. Is that a coincidence, or is there some kind of gag order?
Well, Karin was very active, right? She was their head of design.
Yeah,
Chief design
really
officer.
She's super active, but there's no way that not a single design content creator came out of Chase, except for this one guy who only posts jobs, which is like the most vanilla thing.
No, I hear you, and it's one that because I saw full exposure. I worked with them for a few years, so I know more about Chase than most people. There was Karin, there was Jose Coronado, who's not there anymore. He was at Target. He's not there. He's not there anymore. Hi, Jose. You're great. Daniel Orbach has started writing. I see LinkedIn activity because I'm connected to these folks in terms of, and speaking on panels, right? So it's a little bit similar to like Verizon, right? Where you got Richard Dalton. as their head of design. And I just think they're not, and I'm sure hundreds of designers in Verizon. But how much are they moving needles? But it's probably a perfectly fine place to work, kind of thing, given the leadership, given this appeared commitment to it. But do retail, Walmart, Target, Amazon. Okay, and because it's Bill, Target's a funny company when it comes to design, right? So designers think of Target, maybe even A tier, at least historically you would have, right? Bringing design to the masses, Target's type of thing. The thing about Target, though, is it's software. Like the UX teams at Target, like they used to be clients of Adaptive Path decades ago. Like we're always like C and D tier. Like they never actually invested in UX. They would invest in product design for fancy teapots. That's changed a bit. They brought in Purvi Shaw. Purvi has been scaling the organization. I'm going to put it here in the middle. I think the jury's still out on like if design is driving real value or if design is being just seen as kind of this means, a means of support. Walmart, kind of similar to Sam's Club. Val Casey's been there a long time, 7-8 years. She seems to have been making a lot of progress and a lot of movement on the digital properties. Strong team, certain longevity. There's some challenges with both Walmart and Sam's Club in that they're starting to, we were talking about this, I think, before we got on, they're starting to require people to move to Bentonville. Though that from a hiring perspective, that can actually be an advantage because so many people don't want to live in Bentonville that if you're just looking for a job, you are likelier to find one at Walmart or Sam's Club if you are willing to move because the competition is less. Amazon.
What about Best Buy?
Amazon is the C'est of C's. If you could like define mediocrity in design, particularly at scale, it would be Amazon.
Oh God!
Right, because Amazon. I've written about this. Amazon is except for their return to office program, which is a separate issue. Amazon is an extremely data-driven company, and I believe that they have driven that data to realize an investment in design from which they get the most value, and then not a dollar more. Right? If they were every additional dollar of investment in design would not return that dollar or whatever the expected return is, and that has just landed them at this purely mediocre level. And again, it might depend, like newer initiatives that like Prime Video. Every time they launch a new show on Prime Video that matters, the user experience of Prime Video improves. Right, so like different parts of the organization will have different degrees of value, but it is just overwhelmingly mediocre. Someone asked for Workday. I think it's another C. I'm landing on a lot of C's here. Well, so I know enough to know that they have really strong folks internally. What I don't know is their ability, and so I think as a designer, getting to do some decent work, whatever, it's probably very similar to Oracle, right? Like, is it showing in the product? That's the issue.
No, sir, it is not. It is not.
I mean, frankly, would people say that Workday's design is better or worse than Oracle, though?
True, it is better, but it's better, but it's like frustratingly better. It's like Oracle, you expect it, right? You kind of go into it, like going to the DMV, you're like, I'm just going to get, my day is gone. This is what it is. And I'm going to have to just eat shit for the rest of the day. But
do you
Workday.
not have Intuit here? Oh, Hong. Can you add Intuit?
Yeah, I'll add Intuit.
Someone asked for it.
Yeah.
Oh, but hey, Kat. Kat asked for Roblox too. Roblox is interesting. So Roblox, I'm going to give it a B. I have some friends there, so that's probably coloring my view. They were a client a couple years ago, so that's also coloring my view. It's a very product driven company, somewhat engineering driven company, but design was given some latitude to do good things. They do have strong designers in there. So I'm gonna say B, just based on my knowledge of kind of what it's like to work there. What did you just add for me?
Intuit.
Oh, Intuit. Intuit's solid. So Intuit's funny. I'm gonna give it a solid B. I mean, Intuit 20 years ago would have been A or S tier,
S. Yeah.
right? And Intuit is the Silicon Valley OG of real kind of proper customer and design led experiences. Intuit's getting a bit of a decrement. It could even be a C. Like if we were just going on ethics and how they handle things like TurboTax and trying to discourage, free tax returns in the United States. But when you use their products are still pretty good. So and the design is strong. So definitely there. InVision, is that even a company anymore?
No, it is not.
I mean, even before their fail, before whatever happened to InVision, I would have ranked it in E. I know too many horror stories of what was actually going on inside that company, even when everyone thought they were the hottest shit, that it was really a bro down and of some of the like worst magnitude. That no.
You're gonna give us one juicy story?
No.
Okay.
Just it was they never cared about product. They always cared about marketing. They were terrible at product. So everyone saw the marketing, and the marketing was the duck's head above water, and underneath the feet kicking was just trying to like get at people to hope that they weren't paying attention to just how bad the product was and how it continued to not evolve. USAA, that's an interesting one. Another one you didn't give me. USAA, I wonder where they're at now. They're one that is probably backslid. I gave a talk at USA a year and a half ago, and the focus at that time was coming through from everyone I was talking to there was like, got to show impact, got to show value. Whereas like USAA 5 to 10 years ago was, okay, Luis, I see that. USAA 5 to 10 years ago with Mariah or other kind of leaders was much more innovative, much more felt design driven. And even though USAA is very member driven, I think it's not necessarily the best design environment anymore. Ford is all over the place. I'm going to put it as a C because I'm hearing some backsliding, right? There was Ford Design. There was some really strong innovation going on. Parrish and some other folks. When Hackett was the CEO of Ford, Hackett's a very design-driven CEO. He was the CEO at Steelcase when they acquired IDEO. So then when he moved to Ford, he brought IDEO in. He invested a lot in design. It feels like that the wind has gone out of those sails. I still think there's some momentum that's keeping Ford going, but it's also hard for me to consider any automobile manufacturer above a C because cars are a problem for society and in the environment. Thank you for not asking me to put Volvo anywhere on here because I actually have some friends who work there. What else? Oh, Lego. I hadn't seen that. Lego. I'm going to put Lego as A to B. And the reason it's that high, I mean, everybody wants to work at Lego. Yeah, this is one of those like no design. This is maybe the one exception to the thing I'd said earlier. Like if you were to ask a designer, if you were to offer a designer a job at Lego, many of them would just take it, not even knowing what that job was, just to work at Lego. That said, Lego actually has some awesome people in it. We interviewed Rebecca Nordstrom for our podcast. She runs design for supply chain and manufacturing, like internal tools. Her story was fascinating, how she started as a team of one, just proved value, and now as a team of, I want to say 15 to 20, at least when we interviewed her, this was a couple of years ago. Um, and what they're doing is like the interfaces to the robot arms that help like make manufacturing go or whatever. Like nothing consumer facing, no apps or whatever. And that still sounded amazing. So I would definitely rank Lego quite high.
I would totally work there. I don't even care what job. Like
Yeah,
janitor, sure. If
like
you
are
pay me
they
in
are they like the
blocks,
last company for whom that's true, except for maybe Apple, Airbnb, and Figma? Um, like maybe I should rank them higher. I just don't know enough about like throughout that entire organization, design's ability to drive real change and impact. But clearly, it's high. I just don't know how high. Um, um, who else we got before? Do we need to stop on the hour, Hang?
no, we can keep going. Listen, I feel bad for you because you're carrying the show right now, and
What
I'm
do you
worried
want
that
to do? You want to chime in?
I don't know enough about any of these companies. I'm just looking at it
Okay.
from an external recruiter point of view. I'm like, yeah, this person who's worked at this really hot company might be better than this designer who's worked at a lesser known company, which is completely irrational.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who are there voices here I want to lift up as I'm reviewing what I'm seeing. Um, Datadog, it's funny. I don't know if oh shit, I'm spacing. Stephen Boak. I got to know through the Design Leadership Summit last year. He's their head of design. I like Stephen a lot. I got the sense he's trying to do things the right way, so I'll give them a B. I know nothing else about them, but they're another one. Like they're this is my like there's this group of companies that like we just deliver value to people, and like design is part of that, and it's not sexy and it's not whatever, but it's just honest. And we need more of that, and not more like how do we fool people into clicking buttons in order to make advertisers happy. You already had Costco, sir.
Oh, we do.
um,
Okay, my
yeah,
bad.
I just haven't placed
Um,
it because I literally have no. I don't know anything about design at Costco. Um, Etsy's one that probably would have been an A. Definitely would have been an A 5-6 years ago, and I'm going to put as a C, just because it's a mess. Like Etsy.com is a mess. It's not clear again what happened to the Etsy user experience, but it's not evident. It feels like design is not winning fights internally, given the nature of that experience. Um, oh, there was someone though that I wanted to lift up as I was saying that. Oh, okay, I forgot. Oh, Toast. Toast A. Not just because Jihad's a friend and an amazing dude. It is evident to me that design is making a change, has a real impact at Toast.
mhm.
Restaurants love Toast. I've worked in restaurant businesses, whether Groupon or Open Table. I've worked at companies that interfaced with restaurants. Restaurants are extremely wary of all these technologies that are supposed to help them. Every restaurant person that I've talked to where they use Toast loves Toast. So like they're doing something right, I'm certain that design is making a positive change there. Um, and so that's definitely one to shout out.
That's a ringing endorsement. What's a company that you would
Oh,
want
Notion. I
to?
wanted to I wanted to put Notion. I'm going to put Notion
Oh, wait, there we go.
high
Work.
B. Randy Hunt not just, it's been almost a year now, is running design there. He used to run design at Etsy. That's why I was thinking of Notion. There, Chris, I forget his last name, Kurisu. He's a design recruiter who's somewhat active on LinkedIn. Just made a post that suggests Notion's about to do a lot of hiring. I think Notion's feeling the wind at its sails and seems to have an investment in design. The reason for me it's not A or S is it's a very founder-driven company, and it's not clear to me that the founders really understand design. So this is the jury is out vote. In a year or two, we'll know, is it an A company or is it a B company? We're not slagging enough, maybe because I'm just too nice. I'm going to slag Intercom. Hi, Des. Hi, Paul. I love you guys. Your CEO is a freak. He's an RFK supporting disaster. And no self-respecting designer would want to work at a company with that guy in charge. Full stop. I'm going to actually call
Okay.
it.
Wells Fargo territory. Listen, Wells Fargo has done some really
It's weird
egregious shit.
because literally 5 years ago they would have been an A, and Jochen is an insane person. If you follow him on LinkedIn or X, and it's just I can't imagine. It would be like working for Elon or Peter Thiel or someone like who wants that in their lives. So Upwork, Costco, Atlassian. Didn't we? Yeah, we placed Atlassian. I'm putting it in the. I mean, there's a lot of designers at Atlassian. It's just it's all over the place there. Upwork. I don't know anymore. Upwork had some strengths, but it feels like it's been backsliding. Like I used to know a bunch of folks there and felt like they were trying to do good work, and then it just like there's companies like Upwork, or it's not shown here, but Bill.com, or I know DocuSign is here, where there was this investment 5-6 years ago, like during zero interest rates and times good. And then when the shit hit the fan, they kind of showed themselves and they're just like backsliding. And DocuSign is another one from what I'm observing in terms of that kind of commitment. To design. Am I surprising you in any ways here, Hang?
I would say Intercom. I didn't know that.
That's because I'm too online.
Yeah.
I'll admit that, but if you know, you know.
Yeah. Gusto. Gusto's a little surprising. Mostly like
Microsoft. Let's do our buddies Microsoft. Microsoft, I would rate higher than most, I think, because I'm seeing a remarkable This is very time bound, but in the last year, unlike every other big tech company, Microsoft seems to be investing in design. There's an energy around design. They hired people like Mike Davidson and Justin McGuire, and Liz Danzico's there, and John Maida's there, and like it's a strong, charismatic leadership. But they're also like full exposure. I've done a little bit of like work with them, primarily training, but like they're investing in design. They want to do more and do it better. Like there's a commitment to design at Microsoft that's feeling a little kind of frankly Adobe-ish in terms of just like, yeah, this is a thing that matters. I guess I shouldn't get too particular about exactly where they land.
I would say Gusto is a little bit surprising. Like I'm not really privy to the leadership level, but from an IC perspective, I've just heard bad things about Gusto nonstop.
Like working there or as a tool?
Working there.
Interesting. Okay, that's fair. I'm. This is why you and I are part of this. We have different perspectives, and you're hearing things that perhaps I'm not. Spotify's a funny one, you know, with the Spotify design system and Spotify Agile, and they had all these strong design leaders, but like really, it's a shitty design tool for something that should be relatively straightforward, relatively easy to solve, and they've never solved it. And so again, I'm like, I don't get the sense that design is driving experience at Spotify, because as a user, Spotify is still a disaster. Every time I open that app, I tap things and I don't know what's going to happen next. That is not good design. So while they hire good designers and there's probably a strong design culture, you're not seeing it in what gets released. I don't have a view of what's your view of Mozilla Firefox?
I don't know anything about the design team there really. Besides, I chatted with Brooke, who is a director level there, I believe, a little recently. But I would say, listen, I don't think this is fair though. Like if you think about it from a browser perspective, you have Google Chrome. So if you work on Chrome, you're working at Google automatically, and I think that like upranks you a little bit. And then Arc is new, and I think the user paradigm or user experience paradigm is like entirely different, and people love that. So from a design perspective, Arc gets boosted at the very top. And if you work at Safari, then you're working at Apple, so that gets you boosted as well. And
Saying,
right
yeah.
now, if you're working at Chrome, I don't like Chrome right now because they disabled uBlock Origin, which is the ad block tool that we all use, and that's why I switched to Firefox. And Firefox has a few bugs here and there that I'm having issue with, but they allow me to block ads, and that's all I really want right now. So I feel like they're getting upranked just from Chrome shooting themselves in the foot.
Someone asked about health or ZocDoc, which I see you have here. I don't have a view into ZocDoc. Health generally is not a space where, like, I cannot think of a single health-oriented company that would be, apart from Philips, that would be B or above. Like if I think of CVS Health, various hospitals, Kaiser Permanente, which I've done some work for, apps like ZocDoc or Color, or what is it? There's One Medical, there's Carbon Health. Like there was, like, some of these would have been Bs 5-6 years ago, even through the pandemic, and almost all of them have backslid. From a design standpoint. PayPal, this is a delicate one because I know Rachel Kobetz, I know a lot of other people there. PayPal is all over the place. Literally, because of Honey, I'm putting PayPal as a D. To work at a company that would be so willing to, like, just scam people, scam everybody, scam the YouTubers who advertised it, scam the users who thought that they were getting access to all the coupons. Like, it's just scam city. And that suggests, kind of like what we were saying about, like, McKinsey, just an ethical failing that, you can't actually do meaningfully good design in such an ethically compromised environment. Now, I'm sure there's parts of PayPal, the core PayPal experience or whatever, that aren't like that, but PayPal's got to get its shit together from that point of view. It's like that thing that was irredeemable. Uber used to be an A, right? When Andrew Crow was leading it, even Michael Goff, they invest a lot in design. What do we know about Uber in design now? It's
Uber
probably
Eats
fine.
is pretty
Maybe it's like a
good.
low B, but
I
like,
think I think Uber Eats is pretty good. I like it
but is it
over.
the design of the experience? Do we have a sense that design culture, design is driving that?
No. I would say Uber Eats and Uber in itself has shifted their customer service over to the Amazon model, and I mean that in the worst way possible. Which is like, how do we avoid talking to you about any of your problems for as long and as much as possible until we get to a point where we just throw some money at you to shut you up and make you go away? All automated, of course. There's no, like, person you can speak to.
Carlos Martinez Dominguez says, I am shocked to hear this. Healthcare is the mecca of user centricity. Tell me who.
United Healthcare. You want to do United Healthcare? I put Epic over there because I want you to talk about.
Well,
Epic,
I could talk. I mean, United Healthcare, their ethics notwithstanding, they made some very bad decisions around design leadership that didn't work out. It's like, I don't know the current state of things, but it's not good. Even Kaiser Permanente, which is a company I love, from a design standpoint, is a disaster. There's no singular design team. Their primary UX team has been going through it for years. Like, healthcare, and it's, at least in the United States, and it's similar to banking. Design is not the way they win. So design is not invested in. Design is not enabled or supported in those ways that they ought to be. And so it just, it doesn't bubble up.
How about Epic? Let's talk about Epic because I feel like
Epic?
people.
Is that
Epic?
the health records?
Yeah, like my chart.
I mean, that's
I
easy.
feel like really E. I feel
Maybe
like people
F.
die. I feel like people die from Epic.
Yeah, maybe F. I don't know enough. I know it's at least that low. Athena Health is probably a C because they actually saw design as a competitive advantage, but have had trouble having design actually make a difference. Someone asked about Deloitte. I think I don't know enough about its design culture. Deloitte doesn't piss me off nearly to the extent that McKinsey does. In the org design work I do, Deloitte actually shows up pretty well. And I know Deloitte has some strong design capability. I don't know. It doesn't register the way that Accenture does in terms of like the community, visibility, all that kind of stuff. So I'm putting it below Accenture, but above McKinsey.
I gotta find BCBG for you.
Webflow and CureSpace. So Webflow and Squarespace, I have very little awareness of. I know when David Huang was leading Webflow. I don't know what the status of things are there. Probably fine. David's now at Atlassian, but I don't have enough information. Squarespace is the same thing. Like maybe it's because I'm on the West Coast and Squarespace is based in New York. They're just not a design entity that I have any real familiarity with. I can talk Starbucks. Starbucks is squarely a C. And I say that having worked with them for a while, and their head of UX would probably nod his head and go, yeah. And it's because he's great. He's got a good environment, but he's only director level, right? So he's not able to make the kind of change that should be necessary. And with some of the leadership shifts that have gone on at Starbucks of late, some change might be happening. But right now, I would call it a C, even though a lot of designers would be like, fuck, Starbucks on my resume. That's a big brand. But kind of like Target, there's companies where when internally they think of design, they think of environments or physical products and not at all of user experience and software. And both Target and Starbucks kind of fall into that. I think they're changing, but it's slow.
What about Boston Consulting Group?
Fuck them.
Okay. Done.
I have no idea about them as a design entity, but as their management consulting, they have sold shitty agile and digital transformation initiatives to companies and made the lives of designers at those companies miserable because of how they told those companies how to operate, and the leadership at those companies didn't know any better to do otherwise. So not interested. Let me shout out Vinted. Hi Jonas, I'm going to give you a solid. Actually, I'm going to give you an A. You're an A. Vinted, a lot of Americans won't know, they're the leading secondhand retailer in Europe. They're kind of like a Zalando. Similar heads of design, have been there for a long time and making a real difference in their business. And again, someone that no one would in America would even know about because they don't operate here, but really crazy strong kind of design culture in that organization. Try not to be too American centric here.
That's my fault.
I know. Hang is a very provincial person.
What about Zillow?
Zillow, how about a B? They definitely I don't know enough about Zillow's ability to drive design. I know they've got Jenny Arden running design, and she, by all accounts, is very strong. I have friends who've done consulting there and felt like they were very well received. So like smart people doing the right thing. Design will be a competitive advantage in this real estate market. We don't have Compass here. Compass would have been an A and then fully backslid and is probably a C or D now, right? Just in the last 4 years, from when they had Greg and Kendra and other people leading it to, I don't know what's going on at Compass. Whereas Zillow has maintained, it feels like, a commitment to design. And so I think B is fair. I don't know if it's A level in terms of really driving value the way that some of those folks are. LinkedIn. I'm going to put them on the precipice of B to C. Historically, LinkedIn has always had a solid, kind of like boring but good design culture. Steve Johnson, before he moved to Netflix, was the head of design at LinkedIn. I forget the name of the person who's running design now at LinkedIn. You don't hear about it much, but when I do hear about it, I never hear anything all that bad. It's like, it's good, perfectly fine place to work. It's going to get some of the Microsoft shine now too. Um, you know, my concern with LinkedIn is as a company, it's probably too product driven. And so product managers with like a need to goose certain metrics are likely winning arguments over designers who are trying to just deliver a better user experience.
Oh, you mean like with their AI recommendations?
All that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Um, Slack, I'm sorry, Slack is now a C. Again,
Oh boy.
5 years ago, Slack would have been an A, and I'm sure I'm breaking Ethan Eisman and Omar Lee's heart. But I think like whatever's happening inside Slack and Salesforce, like Slack gets harder to use. Like it's either stays the same or gets harder to use. I don't see marked improvement in the Slack experience. Maybe on mobile, I don't tend to use it a lot on mobile, and I think maybe that's been the shift as they've been focusing a lot on mobile experience. Um, I don't know. Like again, I'm probably making Ethan cry in all of his RSUs. Um, so I'm sure he can handle it. Oops, I don't know what I just did there. Oops.
It just feels like Slack hasn't changed a whole lot besides their pricing model.
Yeah, like I just don't know what design is doing and what impact it's able to have. And I think this is the reason that Salesforce is as low. I've known design at Salesforce for well over a decade now, maybe even 15 years. And design at Salesforce has always had a problem that Mark Benioff, I think, likes design, but when senior designers try to make change, they are always smacked back by the senior product leaders and the executives. Like they're never able to really drive the kind of change that design wants to drive. And so while they invest in it a lot and hire a lot of super talented people, ultimately the impact feels muted.
What about? I feel like eBay could be an interesting one. DoorDash.
So DoorDash, hi Helena. I'm torn on DoorDash. I have a feeling they have a very strong design team and design culture, but they are operating in a late capitalist, rent-seeking, extractive value environment, right? Where
Like Uber.
DoorDash is not. Uber's in a similar boat. DoorDash is actually not making life better for, definitely not for the merchants, the couriers, maybe for some of the customers. Personally, I don't use any of the food delivery tools. I only order food that I can pick up because if you talk to any restaurant, they will let you know that the food delivery services take so much money from them that they're
Yeah.
not losing money on every deal, but it makes it harder for them. Whereas if you just pick it up directly from them, they get to keep it all. And we got used to a lot of these services that when they were cheap that now are more expensive but aren't delivering the kind of value. eBay, I don't know what to make of. I don't hear about design at eBay much anymore. They used to be one of the, like, I'm old enough that in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was Yahoo, Google, and eBay, and people would rotate between those three companies. I called it Yahoo Bay. It was like athletes changing jerseys. You don't hear much about it. Jamie Iannone, their CEO, I know because we worked together at ePinions 25 years ago, and he's a good guy. And so I want to think good thoughts about design at eBay, but as someone who occasionally goes to eBay, I have not noticed any evident change of the user experience in about 25 years, 20 years. So I don't have much to say beyond that. CarMax is going to be on the cusp. This is going to surprise people. CarMax, based out of Richmond, Virginia. Eric Wilson? I'm spacing on his last name. Eric is their head of design. Really good guy. They ended up hiring, they've been able to hire a lot of people out of Capital One. When Capital One would have, the occasional ups and downs. Capital One being in Richmond, CarMax would get a bunch of great folks, or Snagajob, which I used to run design for, was in Richmond. When Snagajob's fortunes turned south, a lot of my best talent ended up at CarMax. CarMax approaches agile right, design right. I get the sense design is making a difference in the kind of customer and user experience. So let's celebrate CarMax.
They gotta pay more.
They're in Richmond, Virginia, dude.
So, but designers should be paid a little bit more. Our lives are hard enough as it
I
is.
didn't know that they're not competitive on pay. That's a factor. Um, I'm aware of it at some of these places and not at others. Um, I've been wanting. Uh, who's interesting? I mean, Palantir is kind of just from an ethical standpoint can't be any higher than E. Any affiliation with Peter Thiel and like the military industrial complex makes it hard to score it much higher. We've got some, your Krakens and Coinbases, and similarly, like cryptocurrency, design's ability to actually make change. Uh, I know some about these organizations, and what I know is I know there's very talented people who I think are getting constrained by some kind of toxic, challenging environments that they're operating within.
TikTok?
I know nothing about it. Do they even? I mean, do they have a design team in North America?
I think so. Yeah, they
Okay,
do.
I I
Yeah, they
I,
hire
I know
designers.
nothing about it as a design culture, design design space. It is a void.
My
Um,
a funny story about them. My friend said that if you work there, never let them know you can speak Chinese because they will leverage that and it will become your second job that's like totally unpaid
right,
because you often
right.
have to work with people from ByteDance and then there's always a language barrier between the Americans and the Chinese,
Okay,
like
okay.
PMs and designers. And if they know you speak Chinese and English, then you'll be the unofficial translator at every meeting.
I'm going to do some quickly. Launch
Yeah.
darkly. Let's. This is to spur Ario. Ario, you're currently a C, but I think you could. I think there's opportunity there. I'm going to put him on the. There's only about 12 designers at Launch Darkly, but there's. It's a very product driven organization. Claire is design friendly, but there's opportunity there. Monday, I'm going to say solid B. They've got Steve Buzz Pierce as their head of design. They're doing really well. Lattice, same thing. You got Cap, and I forget the. I think his boss was the former head of design. Lattice is like part of one of these, just like solid B2B SaaS companies doing good work, not sexy, but that actually matters in people's lives in a more kind of day to day way. Um, Square, I mean, Square's got to be a B. A lot of people would probably think A or even S tier. But Square is one that fetishized a certain type of design and ignored all others, right? So Square fetishized interface design at the expense of interaction design, information architecture, more structural design. And so Square below the surface becomes historically a bit of a hornet's nest. They also had just a weird internal design culture. I think that's starting to change, but it's not. It's one of those where you think like, oh, what designer wouldn't want to work at Square? And then when you work at Square, I think you'd be like, oh, okay, that wasn't all it was cracked up to be. It's hard for me to put Basecamp much high. Basecamp's in the intercom bucket. Sorry, Jason and DHH, but you guys are freak shows, and some designers might want to work for you. It's such a weird culture. Maybe Basecamp's a little above because at least they haven't come out as like anti-vaxxers.
Hmm, that's
But
a
they're
low
like
bar.
they're anti DEI, they're anti like they're
All right,
they're they're
but
they're they're not ethically strong, at least in a
everyone
way that I
is
would consider valuable.
everyone's like just not doing DEI anymore. So
I know. Well, not everyone, but many companies aren't. Um, Fair, I'm going to put strong. I did a little work with them. Robin's not there anymore, but I think he was able to create a really strong design culture, and there was real investment in design there. Schwab is totally backslid, so they would have been C tier, and then they let go of all of their best designers, and I don't know what it's like there anymore, but I can't imagine that it's good. Same thing with like Compass did the exact same thing. Clear, I've heard, is just it's a very CEO-driven company, and design has a hard time making an impact because of that. Intel, poor Intel. I mean, just it's I design clearly never won any of its battles, or Intel wouldn't quite be in the situation that it's in. Miro, I'm going to put Miro as a B. I would have said a C about a year ago, but they've been making some investments in design, bringing on Kit Unger, bringing on Matt Jones.
Layoffs.
Well, that's the thing. They've laid off some, but then they're bringing in others. And I mean, that's going to happen. Like Miro's layoffs to me feel authentic in a way that for a lot of companies, it's not. Like Miro is realizing they need to change the kind of company they are. Whereas like Mural, which not like who talks about Mural anymore? Like Mural just lost. Like, I mean, it's sad because I knew Mural. I know their founder. They had seemed to have a lot of good things going for it, and it just withered. Whereas Miro, like, is putting in the work to figure out who it should be, and hiring strong design leaders to help make that happen. Now, what impact do those designers have? I think that's an open question. But yeah.
Yeah, but they worked everybody really hard right before they released the AI features, and then they laid them off.
I don't. Okay, that's fair. Sonos. I mean, oops, I grabbed Samsung. Sonos has got to be a D, right? Like we would think it should be a B or A, but there's no way that Sonos calamity happens if anyone is listening to designers. I am 120% certain there were designers yelling about this internally that were ignored, and I don't know. No one has told me that. If not, then the design culture is totally backwards. But my fear is that the designers were like, "What are we doing?" And executives just ran right over them. Didn't give a shit.
BP, Best Buy, Bloomberg, Booking.
BP. You know, it's still like it's extractive, it's oil, it's design doesn't matter. Design's not how value is realized. It's not even how like usability is realized. Like at least banks need design for a certain base level of experience. An oil company doesn't need that. And I know a little bit about BP and underwhelmed there. What did you just say?
All the B's. So Bloomberg or Best Buy, Booking.com, and Braze. They're all Bank of America too. You know, they're all like,
yeah.
There's a lot of design there.
There is Booking's funny. I'm going to give it a B. I don't know what its culture is quite like now. You know, Stuart ran design there, and I think Booking definitely did 3 in a box pretty well, and so design was a voice. Booking is a bit of a chaotic experience. Oh, I'm gonna have to go. Booking was a bit of a chaotic experience, and so like I don't know how much design was able to actually make a difference versus like product managers needing to goose numbers. But I know that design had some plausibility. I actually have a conflict. I didn't realize I was having so much fun. I didn't. You can continue if folks want to stick around.
I can't.
I'm gonna have to go
I know nothing compared to you about the internal like politics. So thank you, Peter. Thank you so much for
we'll see
taking all
just
this
how
time.
often I get canceled by my various friends at these various companies. Visa's probably a B or C. Kayak, I don't know enough. Philip Morris, or what are they called? Altera, Cancera. YouTube, I was going to place. I'd probably give YouTube a B. Honestly, I think it's tough. But anyway, I got to go. Thank you all. Happy to continue this conversation in other ways. Feel free to follow me on this LinkedIn thing. And thank you, Hang, for having me. I hope this is the kind of thing you were hoping for.
This is amazing. Thank you so much, Peter. I learned a lot. I learned all the secrets. Now I can make fun of people who are working at these companies.
Alrighty.
All right. Thanks, Peter. Have a wonderful day. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I hope you all learned a little bit, some secrets, some dark secrets about certain companies. Please follow Peter, give him follow, and check out some of his writings. I think he's one of the best design content creators currently on LinkedIn when it comes to strategy, design leadership, design organization. I've learned a lot from following Peter's material, and I hope you do too. So have a wonderful day. And oh God, it's Friday, so have a great weekend, everyone. Take care.